We were here last week. We had about 170 people in the seminar online and in the room, and it was a great success. And we're going to keep with a similar kind of a program and theme. To really, it's about exposure and giving people some insights to what it is, the realities of working in Africa. We have some very good speakers for today, and we're going to be focusing on medical devices and diagnostics, because a number of you, when you applied, this was your main area of interest. But really, to understand what the reality is of working in Africa in medical devices and diagnostics. Some of you have your own companies, already making products, but it isn't just a simple case of just making something and selling it wherever you can sell it. It's really is a complicated web of logistics, regulatory, supply chain, and working out who your customer is. Who are you actually selling to? Is it governments? Is it pharmacies? Is it importers? Is it who is it? Who is your customer that you're working for? So what we're going to do, very similar to last week, is we started out at a local level where we got an example from a local group, and then we expanded to a continental level. And we've got two very interesting speakers today. We've got Lyndon, the CEO of Medical Diagnostech, a relatively small manufacturer based here in Cape Town. And we got to interact with Medical Diagnostic through COVID, where we had no COVID kits here. And Medical Diagnostics were one of the first groups in Africa to manufacture and develop our own kits in a rapid response to fill this gap of supply. And then we have Lasec, who are a much bigger organization who transport and don't manufacture, but distribute products through many countries in Africa, and ready to talk about the challenges of supply chain and the markets and accessing markets throughout Africa. Because it is not trivial. You don't just arrive and start selling stuff. There's regulatory, there's all sorts of, and some of you are nodding because you've had the same experience. And we also got some colleagues from Whitehead Scientific. Sorry, you can see I haven't been in the lab for a while. And who also, for the students to mix and mingle with. I have one requirement. I have a hard stop at 2 o'clock. It is my son's matric dance today, so I'm going to need to be back for photographs in Cape Town at 3. So I'm not the driver, no. So we're going to start off now. So please, we will still work on how we're going to do the questions. The speakers are each going to talk for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we're going to open the floor for discussions. For those of you online, if you have questions, can I please ask that you put your email address with the questions? Because that's been my hunt for the last 3 days. People ask questions. I had a name, but I didn't have an email address to respond. So, Lyndon, I'm going to get you up first to come and tell us the medical diagnostic story. And over to you. Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. Everybody okay? Yeah, so I'm Dr. Lyndon Mungur. I'm the CEO of Medical Diagnostic. We are based here in Brackenfell in Cape Town, and our core competency is the development and manufacture of diagnostics, various types. But I'm here today to speak about sort of the reality of manufacturing in Africa, and also about our story. But I think I'll start off with the story and then tell you a bit about the reality afterwards. So it all began like in 2006, where I met Mr. Ashley Ace at UWC. We had a lot in common. He was actually the first person I met there, coming from UCT doing my undergrad. We did our masters together. Like I said, a lot in common, sports, various things. We used to sit and talk about things like looking into the past and things like that. Helped me out with a couple of applications, etc. And that's where you sort of kicked it off. From there on, he went on to work. He worked at UCT doing some genetic work. I went on to do my master's degree and my PhD. And then sort of at the end of my PhD, we always kept in contact. He sort of went into the diagnostic field first, and he introduced me to this. And this is where I saw a lot of big potential and the possibility of making any test if you have available in antibodies. So that kind of excited me. We started developing our first test, which was the malaria test. That was back in 2009, actually at UWC, on the bench where I was doing my PhD, just finishing off sort of. I'd come in during the week, I'd work on the malaria test, and on weekends, I'd work on my PhD because the equipment was more accessible on the weekend for that purpose. In 2010, we founded Medical Diagnostics. So there were 3 people. It was myself, Professor Eric Wood of the Graduate School of Business at UCT, and myself. And in 2011, we landed our first big customer called ICT. So the reason why we actually started working on malaria tests is because the supply to ICT was going to stop and they needed new suppliers. So that was an opportunity for us. So we developed the tests, we demonstrated to them, they were happy with the product, and then they switched over to buying from us. And at that time, we started selling like at the very beginning. Imagine a very new company selling 1 million tests a month. I mean, it's quite a lot. We didn't actually sell the finished product, we sell master sheets. And to a quantity of about 1 million per month for about a year. And then that is when, as well, at the same time, we got ISO 13485 certification. So this was sort of an important step. We didn't actually realize the significance of this step at the time. It was just a requirement by our customer. I think when you have one product, this is kind of overkill. Like quality management system seems to be overkill because you know all the specifications of your test, etc. But when you start to develop new products, you start to have 10, 20, 30 products, you start to lose track of what's what. And the ISO system or quality management system is sort of geared us up for the next phase, which was to develop new tests because of the competition that we were getting from Chinese companies and so forth. At this time, we also realized that it's not necessarily a local market anymore. It's a global market. So you're not only competing with South Africans or Africans, but you're also competing with the rest of the world. So a company like SD Bioline, they decided to go full force with this. They made their own antibodies, their own membranes, high throughput equipment, and could basically deliver the product cheaper than we could. For that reason, we made other products. During that time, we went through about 3 investors. So this is not, Eric Wood was the first to invest actual cash into the company. That was in about 2010 when he started it. And then in 2014, he sold the shares to Grit International. And then in 2016, we landed our second big customer, but not in the medical industry, in the fuel industry. So it's a very interesting one. The same technology is also used in the fuel industry. So, fuel industry is usually big money, a lot high throughput type thing. So that sort of bumped up our sort of turnover by double just on that product alone. In 2018, we were SAHPRA approved. It was also the time that SAHPRA brought out approvals for IVDs. So by law, we had to actually get this certification. And then in 2019, Grit sold the shares to Timo Capital, who's Boston Gawasheng, who's the chairman of the South African Breweries. And it was also sort of a hostile takeover that they wanted to do as well. So with Grit, they owned like about 35%. And then when there were new opportunities to grow the company, like new sales channels or grants to apply for, or various things like that, they'd like say, no, it's not the right time to go for that. And we kept wondering why. So they wanted to bring us to a point where the company was losing money, where they could give us loans. And also we found out that there was a clause in our shareholders agreement that they could convert a loan into equity. So which means that they would give us loans, convert the loan into equity, and therefore have more than 50% of the company. And basically that would be a hostile takeover. Luckily, we saw that coming before the time. So we navigated a bit. And we got Boss to buy the shares over essentially. In 2020, COVID hit. We all remember that time. For us being a diagnostic company, a lot of promises were made, like X amount of this. Thermo Fisher coming to us and say they want us to make the PCR kits, etc., etc. Unfortunately, and we sort of geared up for that. We threw in more resources, got more employees, type of thing, and none of those promises materialized, unfortunately. And we also a bit late on making a COVID test because we thought it's going to be another swine flu affair where the disease comes very quickly and goes very quickly, and it takes time to develop these products. So you don't sort of recoup your money at the end. Okay, so we decided to go on the COVID test. everybody was getting a lot more serious about this COVID thing now. In 2021, we started developing the COVID test, also submitted to SAHPRA in 2022. So it took us 3 months to develop the test, and it took SAHPRA a year and a half to approve the test. So at the time, everything is supposed to happen quickly. So yeah, that was a bit of a fallback. The test was eventually approved when there was like 2 more little waves left, and then everything opened up. Nobody really cared about COVID anymore. So you couldn't really recoup the money. So I think, we sort of knew that we need to time this correctly, but we didn't expect, SAHPRA to take a year and a half. 2022, we all landed another big distributor, Transfarm. So they distribute to all the pharmacies nationwide, 95% of all of them. A lot of products on there. A couple of issues with distributing through distributor is that they make you compete against other people. So if your product's not cheap enough, good enough, or to that effect, they squeeze you for that last rand or whatever. So we will make 2 rand in the test, while they make 30 rand in the test type of thing. So there are ways to go around that. Open your own store like in N1 and take them on directly, which is part of the future plans, but we'll take it as strides go on. Then in 2023, with the learnings from COVID, we decided to develop new technologies. We tried to develop it in such a way that it will give us a competitive edge in the market, something that nobody sort of have type of thing. And the going things were sort of PCR, and the other one that nobody really thinks of is electrochemistry. I'll go into that in a bit more detail. And throughout the years, we mainly focus on research and development of new products, looking for grants, not advertising and marketing. Most of our sales were through word of mouth. We had 3 big customers, and we relied on that. Big problem with that is if one of them say, no, they don't want your products, then that's 1/3 of your income gone, or even a half. So we need to diversify a bit, and now we're also focusing more on sales, marketing, and distribution, not only in South Africa, but also into the rest of Africa. Like trying to create joint ventures with other companies. I'll give you like an example of 1 or 2 of them. If I want to sell my product in Ethiopia, you cannot make it in South Africa and then fly it up there and sell it there. Like we're operating on a 10%, 20% capacity, so we can just make it in and sell it there. But that country won't buy from you if the product is not made locally. So you need to sort of understand those sort of concepts of each market, what the regulatory framework is, what the political framework is, type of thing. And each country is different. Another example is in our own country. So, a diagnostic company, we wonder like, why are we not getting that much sales? So we go out and we go ask the questions. We go to the docs, ask like, are you guys not using these tests, or what tests are you doing? We find out that nobody's actually doing any tests at the doc. So yeah, I think the market research aspect, like even before we even start development project, is quite important. And then how am I doing for time? Okay. So these are sort of patents and trademarks that the company have. I'm just going to quickly, I'm not going to spend any time on this, but we've got like 2 patents that's got nothing to do with rapid tests or diagnostics. That's because we don't patent our diagnostic tests because you can't really reverse engineer it. So you can't see when somebody's stealing your technology. Okay, everything looks like piss and water at the end of the day, or you can't see it to the naked eye. So it just doesn't make sense for us. We've got the 2 trademarks on the 2 new technologies that we're making now, pocket and biodometer. Company has got certifications like ISO, SAHPRA license, and okay, BE, 100% BE. And then some of our products also have notable certifications, like our malaria test passed WHO malaria testing program in 2016. That was before there was WHO PQ, which changed the landscape. Just the SOMA, FDA, I'm not going to go through all of it, even down to sanitizers over here. Yeah, it's just some of those certifications that we got through the years. And then the reality of manufacturing in Africa. So there's a lot of positives. There's also a lot of negatives, especially there aren't many diagnostic companies in Africa to begin with. Most of us are small SMEs. Okay, very few big companies that can afford lots of money for development. Okay, but the positives are that we manage to understand the ISO system and quality management. I mean, you'll hear that a lot if you go into industry, quality management, supplier review, goes on and on and on, okay? We're ISO certified, we're SAPRA certified, we've got equipment to manufacture at scale, so we can manufacture about 20 million tests per year. Compliant with all government regulations, very important, because you don't want to be put in jail, and if you go for grants, you need to be compliant. We have the relevant product certifications that I showed you earlier. We've got 15 years of R&D experience. We're kind of in the sweet spot for grants and collaborations and investment, because we're not too big, where you can't get grants. We're not too big, we don't need investment. We're not that big. We're not that small either, because if we're too small, don't even think about investments and grants and that type of thing. If you don't have certifications, don't think about it. If your company is making less than 500 Rand a year, maybe don't bother, So we're in that sort of nice spot where, there's a lot of options that's becoming available to us, like at the moment. Then we have the new technologies on the horizon that I'll show you in a moment. And we're a perfect partner for commercialization. The reason why I say that is because having things like ISO, having things like a SAPRA license costs money every year. So like having ISO costs 200,000 Rand a year. Having all these things cost, buying the equipment is very expensive. Like we're talking 5 million Rand for one piece of equipment or that. So it doesn't make sense for somebody that has one product to have to go through all of that to sort of make a product. It's better to take like a company that specializes in a certain field, and you don't have to go through all this overhead cost, employee cost, etc., goes on, and then you can just subcontract the manufacture of your product. So we do that a lot for a lot of companies. We've got a lot of collaborations, you'll see in a while as well. Some of the negatives is that there's not a lot of knowledgeable people in this field, so it's difficult to hire people. A lot of the times when you hire people, it's fresh out of university, with a master's or PhD even. They don't know about ISO, they don't know about market research. They just know how to do the biochemistry or to that effect. And there's a lot of other things like this understanding. I mean, you guys know what a balance sheet is. You know how to read a balance sheet. There's all these different things that come into play. Another difficult thing to deal with is getting high-level certifications like WHOPQ is very expensive. And there's also a barrier of entry for SMEs. So I'll give you this little story. So there's the private market and there's a public market. The public market, they buy millions and millions and millions of tests at a time. The private market, they'll buy thousands of tests at a time. But in order to get into that public market, you have to have a certification called WHOPQ. But to get that certification costs about 10 million Rand, okay, at least starting. Okay, so if you don't have 10 million Rand, don't go for it. Okay, there's a lot of annotations and lab work and clinical trials and things that goes into it. So we didn't have the money to get that, which we've been sort of progressing towards. We can't get access to the public market. Another difficulty is that you can't really sell a HIV test in the private market at scale. Why? Because government gives HIV testing for free. Okay, so why buy it if you can get it for free? And also, where does government get it from? Okay, in South Africa, I think about 70%, we're lucky that we're not so much affected by PEPFAR and the rest, Trump and all that, but 30% of the money comes from the Global Fund, and it was PEPFAR, it's no more PEPFAR. But in order to supply to them, you need WHOPQ. So you can see how the circle of, struggling to navigate with the certifications to get the big markets, etc., etc. Okay, Talk about the private market as well is very difficult. You phone Discim, they don't answer their phone, so now they do business. You email them, they don't reply to emails. You go there, walk into the door, and they ask you, did you make an appointment? So when you eventually get through to somebody, they may not be interested even because they're already buying from China. They've got thousands of products. Why must I go through the effort of changing boxes and packaging, etc., etc.? So they just stick to what they have, and they just ignore you when you try to approach them. So this came Clicks, all these guys. Luckily, we got Transform, and some niche markets require extensive collaborations and funding. So it is a new disease you want to tackle. There's a big market for it. It hasn't, that people are not supplying to that. You have to do a lot of research and development. You have to do clinical trials. You have to find people that have biomarkers, which are not easy for sort of niche products. I'm talking about things like schistosoma. I'm talking about things like cytokines. And you talk about HIV, easy. You talk about malaria, easy to find raw materials. But with the others, it becomes very difficult. So I just thought it's a good idea to bring up this slide because we had to also learn the hard way through years. So you guys are mostly, I know some new business companies coming through. I'm sure most of you have been in the academic field, switching over. So universities are divided this into sort of like a topic on the left. Universities think like this down there. Companies think like this over here. So we'll start with the one. What's the primary objective of university? That is to advance knowledge via exploratory research and publications. Okay? What do the private companies is develop commercially viable products for market needs? Okay, what's the basis of credibility for university? Your credibility goes to academic prestige via peer-reviewed publications and getting grants. For the company's profitability, market leadership through innovative products. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you get where I'm going with this. You see, so the way of thinking between coming out of university and sort of running a company is different. And yeah, we sort of find a lot of people that we hire, if they come straight to university, they think like this. They may have to try to get them to think like that. Just another one. Risk tolerance, high risk, high reward with projects. Failures yield insights. So if your experiment fails, you still get to write the paper. You still get to apply for a grant. But if your experiment fails in a company, you lose millions of rands, etc., etc. Obviously, your credibility falls, thanks, and so it goes on. So this is what we make. So our main sort of product line, a lateral flow test. This is where you see the lines appear, remain absent. How many of you have used a pregnancy test before? Here you go. And how many of you wished it was a positive or a negative result? That's the other thing. But okay, that's the basis of all our tests. Make various types, at least 21 or 25 different types. That is sort of the packaging that we distribute to pharmacies. The sort of the packaging that we'll distribute to clinics because they're not interested in the fancy packaging at the reduced cost. And those are the ones that we keep in stock, the sort of test. Different kinds of COVID tests, COVID antibody, COVID antigen, COVID professional, drugs of abuse, 13 types, HIV, malaria, pregnancy. You also get different types of each. You get the handheld one, you get the cup, you get different types, ovulation, alcohol, saliva, cancer, and cardiac markers. Name a few. And then we also invested in creating apps for our tests as well, because everybody walks around with a cell phone, right? So why not? So the first app that we created was for the COVID test. So you'll get this app by scanning this QR code, downloading the app from iStore, Play Store. The app is useful because it connects directly to the national database. So when you detect COVID, the government will know in real time where COVID is happening. The cell phone have a lot of other advantages. It has GPS, it has GPRS, 4G, 5G, there's a camera. We were going to build AI into this where it automatically detect the result using the camera function. So you can make use of all that features. I mean, you guys won't realize this is actually a very powerful computer, actually more powerful than that gentleman's laptop over there. 8 quad-core, 108 megapixel, uh, actually octa-core, 16 gigs of RAM, that type of thing. The app also have sort of like a user instruction. It also tells you what to do if you found to be positive, where to go to, what to do. And we're also developing apps for a lot of other things now as well. This is one of the technologies that COVID sort of inspired us to make. We call it Pocket. If you guys familiar with PCR, that's that. Except that it works in LAMP technology. So PCR is cyclic parameters, LAMP is one temperature. So this is essentially a microheater. You can use it over and over and over. You recharge it. That's the only power supply you need. One charge will give you 13 cycles. And it works with these chips. So in the chip, you put the master mixes, your PCR primers, reagents, in an off-flash format, which means you can store it at room temperature. When you're positive, the color changes. And you can do 6 different things at once. And we're also working on the 12-well one. And there's sort of a starter kit. Can be used at a doctor's surgery. This device fits in your pocket, so it's quite mobile. That can be used at a point of care. And at the cost of 2,000 rand. So the prices was very cheap. It cost us 2,000 rand to make, so I think we're going to charge 50,000 rand to sell. Or maybe not, but 5,000, but you get where I'm going with this. The competition to this is Gene Expert. So the machine costs 500,000 rand. You need to maintain it by spending 25,000 rand. Cartridges are at least reasonably priced. That's not too bad. But our first project with this is for HPV, to tackle HPV. We also got a small grant for that to help us sort of push it along. And yeah, a lot of other things are using cell phones and AI machine learning to identify genital warts and other things like that, or to put the scope into the vagina, doing a specular examination, taking pictures of the warts, and try to let the machine identify whether that is related to HPV. So imagine you can, first line defense, cell phone, plug the scope into your cell phone, do the specular examination, upload into the AI database, and it gives you a sort of a percentage probability of that being the HPV. Yeah, almost done. And this is sort of electrochemistry. So you guys familiar with blood glucose monitors? Similar thing. But we developing it for other diseases, well, like HIV, malaria, and other things. There's only sort of 4 tests in the market at the moment. There's blood glucose, and 3 others. We also got the hardware sorted. We're busy with electrodes at the moment, and the biochemistry behind this technology also works through your cell phone. Okay, and then this is my second last slide. So we're also working on a point of care CD4 counter. At the moment, CD4 counting is still have to do it in the lab. You need your overheads and machinery. So this works with like gold nanoparticles conjugated to CD4 antibodies. And then if this is a CD4 cell, the gold nanoparticle binds to it. And as it comes through, it comes through an electrochemical reader. And in that, you have an LED that's programmed with a microcontroller. So as the CD4 cells come through, it amplifies the signal, and then you can count the number of cells. So this is still at TRL2 level, so it's at the beginning stages of the development stage. And Oculus is a device that you put against your eyes, scans your pupil, it can tell you whether you're on an influence of drugs or alcohol based on pupillary response to light. When we started with this, there was no AI. So we had to hard code. If the eye do this, it means that into the software. But now there's AI, so we can train AI to do that. We're sort of changing this technology for that. And this is the last slide. This is just an example of some of the organizations that we've collaborated with in the past. Some are still present, some are past, and this is probably half the list. But I mean, there's UCT, there's CSR, there's American companies, there's Stellenbosch, FITS, SCIG, University of Pretoria now as well. So yeah, we collaborate a lot. We We help companies sometimes. Sometimes they help us. We don't make electronics, so SCIG does that for us. We don't make proteins, so CSR and UP does that. And there's now also Flora Biotech. It's sitting there at the back. And yeah, so that's us. Thanks everybody for listening. And yeah, don't know if you'll do questions now or afterwards.
Yes, there's a burning question now, guys. So one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of break the flow is we're going to now move on to Lasec. So the students here, sorry, I shouldn't call you students, the fellows, you're going to be getting a series of projects tomorrow. And Lyndon has put in a project from Medical Diagnostic, which is basically you're going to self-assemble into teams. What I'm telling you that now is the lady's going to put another 2 projects into the mix for you guys to look at and to be looking at. So if you are looking to bring products into the market in Africa, how would you do it? Where would you choose it? Which country would you go for first? What's the regulatory pathway? And the most important question that you will get drummed into for the next 2 weeks, who is your customer? Okay, so if you are selling a diagnostic, in most cases it is not, unless it's a pregnancy test, in many cases it's the government who are customers, or it's the pharmacist who's your customer. It's not the person who's buying it, it's the person who's buying the kit to sell on. So that's a really important thing to get into this kind of thought process. So I'm going to stop there and call up Naledi to come and talk about Lasec. And we've specifically asked her to focus on a couple of case studies and really talking about the differences from different countries and when you move into different countries. So Naledi, please come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm just going to take you through our Lasec story, how we started, challenges we faced into the African market, and some case studies to just demonstrate how we've managed throughout the years. And oh yeah, let's start. Oh, sorry. Thought sound projection, but anyway, yeah. So we were established in 1945 as a lab and scientific equipment supplier and distributor for Africa. Our current CEO joined us in 1971 and is still our CEO. So he's weathered the storms with us throughout the decades. And then our first export into Africa was in 1990. So that marked the beginning not only of our continental footprint, but supporting the entire global south. And then in 2024, we got our ISO 9001 certification, and we established our kit packing facility in 2006, focusing on sample collection. And then the company as a whole rebranded in 2009 to this logo that we currently have. We then established Lasec International, which is part of Lasec Group. So Lasec Group is divided into Lasec South Africa and Lasec International. That was established in 2011, and we got our ISO accreditation for 13485 for kit manufacturing certification in 2015. So we manufacture our kits here in Cape Town, in Pinelands, and Ndabeni. So everything is locally packed in our facilities. And then we officially got registered as a supplier of medical devices and IVD with SAPRA in 2017. We renovated our head offices in 2019. Our head offices are in Cape Town. So on top, we have our official offices with the entire support staff, and at the bottom, that's where we have our warehousing. And then we opened our service center in 2023, where we service equipment that we supply and calibrate across the African continent. So that's done locally as well. We're quite a big company. There's a lot of portfolios that fall underneath Lasec. So I've just categorized them here. So we have biotechnology solutions with our main partner here being Biorad, and we have clinical solutions for healthcare, so addressing a range of rapid and point of care solutions for accurate diagnostics. We have consumables, so a selection of affordable solutions, products tailored for like allergen testing, bioscience, and chemistry. And then we have our diagnostics, where our sample collection kits fall in. So this is heavily supported by the Ministries of Health, specifically for like your HIV and HPV programs. And then we have the industrial portfolio, where we have most of our clients in the food, beverage, and pharmaceutical sectors. And we just recently launched the industrial safety portfolio, which focuses on chemical and hazardous material storage, safe storage. And then obviously our furniture division, where we manufacture locally for furniture for diverse applications and different types of lab workflows. So how do we approach going into market, and how do we engage with our customers across the continent? Because we have such a diverse and unique customer range, right? So we have product and application support, where we have specialists in-house who help end users to maximize product performance, and also like advise on what best solutions would meet their exact needs in the labs. We also have a sales and business development team, which I belong to. So we are the dedicated team that travels in country, that engages with the ministries, that engages with the end users and the funders and the policymakers, just to understand what the core priorities are in terms of healthcare, in terms of science, in terms of research in that country, and then sort of align what we have in our product basket to meet the solutions of that local context, right? And then we pride ourselves very much about being not a drop and go supplier. So our after sales support is one of our cornerstones, and it's one of the foundations that has helped us remain so consistent in our business, and what has helped us expand our business, which is our after sales support. So we provide on-site and remote product training. We also offer installation, servicing, and repair services, as well as preventative maintenance plans. So we all know, in terms of market access, logistics is a big part of it, right? So not everything goes via road in the African continent because of our road infrastructure and because of how big the continent is. So we are an approved economic operator with SARS, which gives us preferential trader treatment for customs, and that facilitates the process of clearance, making it faster for us to be able to move and get clearances to move shipments. And then we have the capacity to move a variety of sizes of equipment, and we have local partners in country that are able to assist with offloading those equipment right into the end destination, right? And we have wide range of cargo types, so general cargo, temperature controlled cargo, so ambient or refrigerated, and hazardous cargo, all which are handled by our in-house logistics team. And we have a stringent service provider selection process in terms of choosing in-country partners. So we understand that each partner has different strengths. So we understand that we need to use different partners for different things. So we have a stringent process to assist with that, and we provide import clearance. So we offer DDP services, and we're able to advise customers and assist in terms of getting the correct waivers to get things cleared. And as you can see, we apply different types of mode of transport, with road being the highest at 56%. That's obvious because of the cost implications, and because it's easier to move products within Southern Africa and East Africa via road. And then with air freight being at 37%, obviously because of the time saved. However, it's a bit more costly than it is to go by road. So because we've been around for so long, we've managed to solidify our relationships with airlines, so we're able to negotiate for prices to get the best prices for our customers. Yeah, so in total from March 2024 till date, we've managed to move about over 3,400 shipments across the continent. So this just shows the continent, but it does include the entire global south. So from like countries like IT to like Afghanistan as well. So you can see we moved literally products from South Africa to Nigeria, where we've had like 97 shipments, from here all the way to Uganda, where we had more than 200 shipments. So we quite, our logistical capabilities are quite strong, evidently on this. And then, yeah, we all know we can't move any product without having the correct certifications and being compliant with the regulations with each country. So we maintain the highest standards of compliance. We have ISO 9001, which is our foundation for quality management, product safety, and regulatory compliance. We also have ISO 13485, which is an internationally recognized QMS standard specifically for medical devices. And we also have ISO 17025 for product conformity, safety, and performance. And we have engineers who are certified with NSF 49 for biological safety. This has impacted our business positively because it has given us a competitive advantage, because people are more trusting of our processes because we have the certifications and accreditations, which means funders and ministries of health are more inclined to do business with someone that is recognized by these bodies, right? And because of our compliance, we are lower risk and fewer disruptions, and we are more productive and better tender. We have better tender eligibility. And then, yeah, another important part for market access is the validations and registrations in different countries. So in South Africa, we have SAHPRA, obviously, who regulates the medical devices and IVDs entry in South Africa. So they give us a license to import and export medical devices. And these medical devices are then classified based on their risk. So low risk would be class A, high risk would be class D, right? So in other countries, other versions of SAHPRA in other countries, in each country. So you'd have TMDA in Tanzania, you'd have NAVDAC in Nigeria, and the typical requirements would be like submission of dossiers, local performance testing, so verification, validation of the product before it comes in, and also an appointment of a local distributor or representative in country. So it's very important to know what your market is in each country that you're trying to enter, and in that market, establish a trusted local partner that you can partner with to facilitate the process of registration, right? And then another critical part of it is ensuring that you're registered in the national database to then monitor the post-market survey of your product. So if there are any complaints, you're quickly able to then mitigate and have resolutions for those. Yeah, we're quite excited for the future. The African Union is working on integrating the registrations into one registration portal where countries can recognize registrations from other regulation authorities like SAHPRA can be recognized, let's say in Ethiopia, if you upload and register those registrations on the AMA. I'm not sure when that will be implemented, but it's hopefully in the future, and hopefully governments do take it into consideration and implement it into their policy. Yeah. So I'm going into the case studies in terms of how we've engaged with customers and come up with solutions that are specific to their countries. So this was a project from the Global Fund, and it was implemented obviously by partnerships. So this was a project for capacity building, equipping labs in Mozambique with fit-for-purpose equipment. We were then commissioned to supply and install over 201 autoclaves in 11 provinces across Mozambique. Obviously, Mozambique is a Portuguese-speaking country, and we are a South African country, so it's not part of our 11 official languages. So language was a huge communication barrier for us, and it was essential for us to have someone that speaks the local language to be able to engage not only with the end users, but with the ministries to ensure that the sites were ready and to ensure before we deliver these things that these autoclaves that the labs were prepared to have these autoclaves installed. Once we got on the ground, another thing that came up was the water quality. So the water quality was quite poor and it was posing a serious challenge on the sustainability of the actual autoclaves. We then, through our coordination and engagement with Ministry of Health, were able to advise on getting water treatment solutions for that so that they ensure the sustainability of their autoclaves. So yeah, we managed to successfully install all autoclaves nationwide, and this really demonstrated the importance of local adaptation, whether it's language, whether it's coordinating logistics in country, and understanding that each country doesn't have the same infrastructure. So you must be prepared to have engineers that are adaptable and agile to then troubleshoot on site. Yeah. And then the second case study was the vaccine cold storage rollout. This was a Vodacom donation this was in support of the COVID relief. So practical challenges that we had to overcome for the successful rollout was same as Mozambique, assessing site readiness so that the sites are ready to receive the equipment. So we utilized both phone calls and WhatsApps to confirm their readiness because it was in remote parts of South Africa. And due to the remote locations and poor road infrastructure, we needed to also ensure that the vehicles we're using were well equipped to be able to navigate these terrains. And the timeline was quite short because of the donation, so we needed to be very tight to ensure the donations were well received, and we had to train and mobilize multiple resources to make sure that this happens, right? So to give the end users the confidence to use the equipment, we also used digital resources to provide training, so videos on how to use it as well, how to maintain it to ensure its sustainability. So yeah, that was that. And then the third case study is about harm reduction kits for Mozambique and Malawi. So this is an initiative with the WHO harm reduction strategy. So it's aimed at reducing the transmission of infectious diseases, specifically HIV and hepatitis amongst drug users. And the biggest challenge for this is that there's not enough budget from ministry to cover this, right? And ministry themselves don't know how to prioritize it in terms of integrating it within their national programs. But global funders have recently began to integrate harm reduction into the financing streams. So we're hopeful that eventually it will be part of national programs. So our initial engagement began with in-country visits in both Malawi and Mozambique, where we then collaborated with the Ministry of Health over a period of 3 years to research and through consultation, develop a tailored harm reduction kit for their local programs. It took a lot of in-house pulling from the commercial and procurement teams to find suppliers that would give us a cost-effective solution, but we managed to do it, and we managed to create something that could be scalable across Africa. And the last case study, which is sexual assault evidence collection kit, something that we're very passionate about, given the growing recognition of gender-based violence response. And this is to support the forensic capacity of the public healthcare system, as well as prioritizing the justice and making sure that victims get their justice. So we develop sexual assault kits that enable accurate forensic evidence collection in cases of sexual assault, supporting the survivors as well as the judicial process. So each country has its specific needs and its specific configurations of what should be in a sexual assault kit. So we've managed to adopt these depending on what the ministries want, but it's difficult because the ministry wants one thing, the funders have a different idea, as well as the actual implementing partners. So it's quite complex to navigate, right? But yeah, because we are able to customize things and because we manufacture these in-house here in Cape Town, it's easy to then tailor it to the specific national programs for each country. And this is done through maintaining close coordination and communication with the different project coordinators, as well as procurement agents and funders. Because sometimes policymakers make the decisions, but the implementing partners aren't involved in that decision making, yet they're the ones that run the programs on the ground. So there's a communication barrier there. So we try to maintain that close and communicate everything to everyone so that we're able to find a solution that works. And yeah, we've successfully designed and piloted kit configurations for Tanzania and Zambia. And now we're starting to engage with Uganda and Malawi and customizing for their markets. And this just highlights the importance of relationship building and being responsive to each country's needs. And this shows how we balance our business for growth, but within social responsibility and making an impact within the healthcare system. Yeah, that's me. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much to the speakers. We're going to open the floor now to the people in the audience, but people online as well. We already have some questions online. So I think the point has been, first of all, I want to say thank you very much to the speakers for giving up their time and to come and talk to us about the role of the medical device and diagnostic markets in Africa and looking at what it's like being a manufacturer, but also what it is like to get product into other countries. I think the real important role in both of your presentations was one, ISO accreditation. You know, if you want people to buy your product, you need accredited labs. You can't just, and if you want to scale, and particularly if you want to get funders to fund you, you need a level of accreditation. Because as a funder, as I have been, do you give your money $1 million to somebody who's got accreditation or somebody who doesn't have accreditation? It's actually a very easy choice with accreditation. Knowing your markets you're moving into, you will get your projects in tomorrow. In all of the projects, it's the same question. It's customer, it's regulatory, it's interviewing and talking to people in those territories. So I'm going to open the floor to questions for Naledi or for Lyndon. Who's going to kick us off? You should state your name. Sorry, the mic is for those online.
No stress, thanks. Hi, my name is John Ray. I'm very fascinated by something you mentioned. You mentioned that you guys were working with Vodacom on a healthcare project. How did that, I mean, just out of pure curiosity, how did that connection come about? Because you don't, I mean, of course, there's a lot of social investment and all those things, but did you guys approach them with the concept or for funding from a CSI perspective, or how did you approach that?
Oh, okay. Yes, yeah. So it was a Vodacom donation through to UNICEF, who then have partnership with. We don't do corporate social initiatives. We are for profit.
And I think a lot of the people in the audience, the private sector, you know, the big farmers or the banks are getting very much into the space. Don't just always think health.
Thank you very much for the talk. My question goes to the first presenter concerning the CD4 count device. So as I work with people living with HIV, I want to know the results are also given in percentage, because we know that for the pediatric population, it's not the absolute CD4 count, but it's the percentage who can better evaluate the immunological response. And also I want to know what is the add value compared to the old device like PIMA and some device like that. Thank you.
So are you asking about the accuracy of the CD4 counter? Okay, we don't know that answer yet because we're still at the beginning stage of the development of that. We've created a concept, we've done the review of the literature. The way we coming about this idea was attending these conventions, like these big conventions, PEPFAR and so forth. And at the top of the list was a need for CD4 counters. So at the moment, this is a collaboration between ourselves and CSIR. We are doing the nanoparticle because we make nanoparticles and conjugates. CSIR does microfluidics. We also do electrochemistry, as well as University of Pretoria and CSIR. So that's how the collaboration works. We don't know how accurate it's going to be yet, but it's based on a similar technology to, what's that machine? Scatters light. I forgot about it now. When I get to it, I'll get to you, but it works in a similar concept. So that works using a similar methodology for this technology. So it should be fairly similar within 10%. Sorry? On you? Email. What about it?
Hi, yes, thanks. I just have two questions for both speakers. So, for first presenter, what impact do you see the companion app having on the healthcare system? And then for the madam, with the harmonization of African medicine agencies, what role do you see Lasec playing when it comes to framing the regulations around lab devices continent-wide?
Good luck.
So, okay. The companion app, I think that will go. Oh, okay. But I remember the question.
Right. Good afternoon, and thank you for your presentations. My question is to the gentleman. How does testing work for your devices and your products, especially as a smaller company compared to Lasec? Do you throw them out into a community and see how does ethics work? What do you do? And this is coming from someone who's on the academic side of that table you had, and I want to know from a commercial side, how do you handle the testing of your products?
Okay, so I am more interested in the ISO aspect of the whole thing. So my question would probably go to both of you. Dr. Lyndon first, I want to know how long it took for you to go from inception to ISO. And then to Naledi, I saw that Lasec is a very old organization, but you only got ISO in 2015. What was the story like? What challenges did you face? And I think Dr. Lyndon too can add this to the challenges, how you overcame those, and how you actually got to being ISO certified. Well, there is one more, but maybe I'll leave that.
Go for it, guys.
I go first.
Yeah,
Ladies first. Okay, so the first app is related to a companion app, first question, and whether that will be valuable. I think it will be extremely valuable. There's a lot of benefits of having an app. Number one, data collection. Number two, using the phone. Your phone has things that humans can't do, like you can connect to a background server. There's GPS, so government can tell you in real time where diseases are occurring, where to send more testing, where to send more medicines. The demographic information allows governments to plan better because you don't really understand where the diseases are. It also helps. You can do a lot of different languages on there, so not just English. So you can distribute it to almost anywhere. For people that can't read, you can do sort of visual, graphical, animated sort of use instructions, as well as link to online videos and other resources, as well as to other things like connect to doctors and a multitude of other things that I'm not mentioning right now. Okay, so the second question was about evaluating products. So when we develop new products, we send it. What we do first is we get control standards, positive and negatives. So we try to get as many as possible, like at least 100 of positive, negative. Positives can be strong positive, weak positives, goes on. We first make sure that we are happy that the product's performing well. After that, we'll then send it to external laboratories. Like for HIV, we send it to NICD. We've got a collaboration with the University of Pretoria and basically blood services, among others. At the moment, we're conducting a clinical trial in Tanzania and in Cote d'Ivoire for HIV tests in order to get WHOPQ. So that is how we do it and get the certifications if the country has it or whatever they need. Like to sell in Europe, you need CE. To sell in America, you need FDA. To sell in Australia, you need TGA, and so it goes. So you have to sort of go through those really critical. I mean, you don't want a product to go the HIV test and somebody gets a wrong result and then they kill themselves because of that. So we take that very seriously and we try to make sure that our tests are 99% and above. And there's no test that's 100%. If somebody says a test is 100%, just go the other way. The third question about ISO. So ISO is sort of like a PhD on its own. So at the beginning, we didn't know what we're doing, we didn't understand. And also, there wasn't a lot of help. There wasn't a lot of companies that had ISO in South Africa. There wasn't a lot of consultants. There was like one company, two companies, one or two consultants. So not a lot of help. It's very difficult to understand. So it took us a while. There are things like, it involves things like customer review, equipment calibration, quality checks. We have 200 quality checks through our product life cycle. Environmental monitoring, and the list goes on, right? So we got some help, consultation from overseas, and like 3 levels of consultation eventually. We got it the first time, and it was like we didn't do what our manual said, and so forth. And then we got audited, and they told us, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, we're not doing that. We had to change it again, and so it went on. So now we're at the point where if we get audited, we'll get like 1 non-conformancy or 2 non-conformancies, or sometimes none at all. And we've got it really planned out throughout the year, different things we have to do. There's like about 30 things we have to do to ensure that you pass an audit at the end of the year. I don't know if that fully answers your questions, but...
Another question then, Flora Biotech, you've just done ISO. How long did you take from start to finish? Okay, pretty much a year. And that's with people who've done this before. If you're doing it for the first time, it's more than a year, all right? So, okay. Yeah, back. So I think the point is it's not a 1-month process. It's a journey. Naledi, do you want to? Thank you, and we'll come back to the other side of the room now and the online question.
I'll touch on the MA question. You asked what our role is in terms of like. I think we need to understand what the purpose of MA is, right? So it's part of the AU initiative since the establishment of the AU when it was still OAU. So this is about the free movement of goods and people. So we have solutions, let's say in South Africa, it's registered, it's proven to work, it meets the quality standards. And SAPRA is recognized in other Southern African countries. So what then stops that from being recognized in another? So it's not just about us, but it's also about supporting African businesses and localizing our solutions ourselves here. We've been part of a lot of consultations, let's say with the UN business, understanding what our role is in supporting growth, not only economic, and that's the kind of role we play in this. and then I'll hand over the part about ISO to Chantal because she.
Did you only get ISO in 2014? How's that for your question?
Hello, everybody. My name is Chantal. So I think I also want to build on your answer, if that's okay. Just coming back to Amma. I think for us, we're really passionate about making sure that we deliver fit for purpose solutions. And so our kind of requirement is different to other continents. We need to create a network that supports that. So I think as local manufacturers, we haven't really seen that support come through. And so in whatever capacity, we can play a role in making sure we develop frameworks that give local and regional manufacturers an opportunity to actually sell their product. We want to be at the table. So we're putting ourselves, as Naledi said, in those discussions. I don't think any formalized, there hasn't been any formalization around which kinds of roles we'll play. But we're not going anywhere, so we'll keep knocking on the door. And then I think in terms of our ISO journey, I think the one thing I wanted to add on to what Lyndon shared was that I think it's important to remember that the standard will never tell you what to do. It will tell you what's required, and you have to build a system that supports your business. It'll tell you you need to manage your suppliers. It won't tell you how. You need to make sure that when you create your framework for quality management, it's something that's sustainable by your business. So I think that's the only advice I would want to give you. And I think from a cost perspective, as Lynn said, it's not cheap, but important to remember that recertification will be required. So it's not a once-off cost either. It's an annual or every 2 years or every 3 years, like we've just been recertified. And you'll always have non-conformances. You'll always find something to improve. And that's good. See it as an opportunity. I just wanted to, if I can, share that too.
Thank you. Oh, this side of the room.
Good afternoon. This is Saura from Tunisia, and I'm an African Star Fellow. So thank you for your talk. It was really impressive. I have a question for Prof. Lyndon. So it's interesting, like the wide range of products and innovations you have. And I have a question, like how do you decide how to invest your research and resources between the short-term innovations such as the COVID-19 testing kits or the long-term innovation while also having a sustainable range of products?
Hi, my name is Salma, and I have a question for maybe both of you as local manufacturers. So I know that Lasec and also Medical Diagnostic are quite established now, but at earlier stages when it was emerging, have you faced a challenge to convince people to switch from buying from global market to locally manufactured stuff? And also given that also global market might be cheaper, Chinese products. So have you faced that kind of challenge, and how you convinced customers to buy from you?
Okay, so I'm Megan. I'm also an African Stars Fellow, and I also am a laboratory technician at the higher education institute called EduVas. I have two questions, one for the gentleman. You highlighted nicely that there is a big gap between the research level of thinking and the company level of thinking. What I want to know is how is Medical Diagnostic aiming to bridge that gap between the two? And then for Lasec, because I'm doing procurement also at the lab where I'm currently at, one of the things that we struggle with is lead times. Because this really impacts research, do we see any improvement in this in the near future?
Quick question to you, Lyndon. I've always been curious with lateral flows. Why is it something that GPs haven't taken up? Seems to be a bit of a gap there, and I think it could give quite useful, almost instant information.
So you asked about how we manage to convince people to. So as I mentioned when I started, that the cornerstone of who we are is our ability to provide is our ability to provide after-sales support, which you don't get from your international suppliers that compete. So you can get it at a cheaper price, right? But the maintenance and the durability of that equipment, in terms of servicing, preventative maintenance, and the support you get for that from global, like your Chinese manufacturers, is zero to minimal. So that's why we have customers that trust us, because they trust that we're there even after we've made the sale. So that's how we've been able to build our relationships, is through our service engineers, through the stickers that you'll see in the different labs with the Lasec sticker, serviced, calibrated those equipment. So we've become a household name for lab technicians that they trust. We've managed to. And then you asked about lead times. Lead times. So in terms of improving lead times, really try to work with our customers for planning, right? So we then assess and monitor what you've been buying over a couple of months to preempt the quantities that you. That's why every time you reach out, we always ask, so what's your usage roughly for a certain consumable, so that we can keep those in stock for you to guarantee more forthcoming when we send emails and oh, good.
So I think the latest question was, what do you focus on when you develop new stuff, right? So I think the best answer to that is the one that's going to make you money the quickest. That's the one that you're going to focus on first. But obviously, you need to think about long term. So we obviously do our market research and understand the needs. So we know that HIV is not going away. We know that malaria is not going away. There's going to be another COVID type of disease. So we're not even sure if we're going to tackle that when it comes. When it comes to lateral flow test, I would like to believe that we're the experts of that in the field, and we don't actually need to think about it when we develop. We know what it takes to make a good product, and we can make any product if we have access to the biomolecules. And we know there's always this nitty-gritty. I mean, the science is out there. You can read your papers, but there's always that nitty-gritty about when to a pet or when to whatever you can get. So, and also we don't do all the projects all at once. So sometimes you can start a project, but you have to wait 3 weeks for another thing to arrive, and then during that time you just go on with another project, and then you hand it over to your collaborator, and then they take 6 months or 8 months to do their part until it comes back to you, and so it goes on. We also have different employees for different things. So we've got one that focuses only on lateral flow. We've got one that focuses only on pocket. We've got one that focuses only on electrochemistry, and a couple of support staff here and there. And then we juggle it around. So they do both development and manufacture. And we're not always manufacturing, and we're not always developing. So that is how we sort of juggle the time around. Yeah.
And the key there is that you're using collaborators. You're not trying to build it all in-house at the same time and build it. So I think that's a really key message.
Yeah, so just understanding electronics is one thing, but understanding things like a microprocessor and how that works is far beyond me. So I'm not going to go into that. I know the basics. I've been reading up because you have to understand when you're making decisions. But yeah, things like that, we don't know how to program. So we outsource. Eventually, we'd like to have our in-house program and our in-house electricians, and then type of thing. Okay, so the other question was local versus private. International in terms of sales. Was that the question? Converting customers. So yeah, we're still lucky that our prices are still comparable to the Chinese and those organizations, especially like HIV and malaria. We struggle to compete in price with tests like pregnancy, because it's more of a commodity type product like gold, so the market depends the price and things like that. HIV is more highly at a higher price. Drugs of abuse is the higher price. So we make it cheaper than what the Chinese can supply to us, interestingly. There are like niche products like schistosoma that nobody makes in the world. And with that products, you can add a higher markup. Then we have a few tests that makes 300% markup, for example. So yeah, it depends. So in terms of price, we're still there, and as the lady mentioned, we can give our after-sales service. Like if a test is not working, a lot of the times it's user error, or they instead of using a pipette, they use something else, or like with HIV clinics, they have normally your test and a comparator test, so that if they're not sure of the result, they can use the other one's test as well. But then they use the buffer with the other companies testing our test, things like that. One lady took a pregnancy test and put it in her mouth. They took the running buffer of a COVID test and push it up their nose type of thing. So we can provide that after-sale service, and we can go out to the customer immediately, help them, and they're very satisfied with that because they know that there's help around the corner. Sometimes they change nurses, and then they tell us, no, this people has been using your test for 10 years, but then the nurse changed, so that is sort of how we keep it local. And there's also sort of a bigger drive for local manufacture. Not even Africans want Africans to manufacture. Americans want Africans to manufacture now as well. So there's a very unique opportunity, I think, for us now to take advantage of. The time is now. If we don't take advantage of it now, it's not going to come again, type of thing. So we go in for that. We go in for that ERP, WHO, PQ. We're trying to get the tens of millions of tests at a time, type of thing. Yeah, the price is good. So the last one was university thinking versus how do you bridge the gap between the two? So how do we bridge the gap? So we get a lot of interns, so we learn a lot from them as well. Sometimes they make mistakes that you don't expect, like not thinking within the box. But I mean, it's difficult. I would say they don't teach these things at university. It doesn't appear that way. So you can't learn this at university, the other column on the right. You can only learn it by going into industry and working there. There's no real book. Yeah, there's books. But I mean, I think you really only learn by working for the company, being an intern, that type of thing. There's a lot that goes on into developing a product, not just the science. There's the market research, the planning, supply chain, distribution, and the list goes on. I hope that answers the question.
We have one question online that hasn't been addressed, and I think it's for you, Naledi. You spoke about your distribution networks in Africa, but the question is when you're bringing products in from around the world that you then distribute in Africa. I think that's what the question is asking. Is it mostly through air or sea?
Both.
Both.
It's a mix, so it depends. We bring containers and consumer. So by obviously you can buy a container, yeah. It's a mix.
And the question is, this is from Joanne Passmore, is what's the most common issue you have causing delays at customs?
Usually waivers from ministry to get clearance.
The waivers.
Yeah, the waivers.
Can't get anything from anywhere. It's a big announcement and then go through the Gulf.
Right, and plus, yeah, like funding because of such.
Okay. Are there any final questions?
Thank you. I did raise my hand previously. Okay, no problem. So my first question is to the first presenter. Very interesting presentation. So when you develop products, does it always need to come from you, or do you, for example, take ideas from others and they approach you to develop it and so on? That's my first question. And the LAMP assay is really quite interesting because LAMP is being advocated during COVID, for example. There were many studies and so on. But it will be really good to have something that would go to point of care. Although it was being talked as point of care, but making it point of care is very important, and it looks interesting. So I want to know a little bit more about that. And to Naledi, I'm from Ethiopia, so we, yeah, and we normally we don't have local producers that much, so we usually export products from across the world, and it's quite challenging for us because I think something that is really a problem is I don't know, it's something that we need to solve besides what you mentioned about regulatory agencies and so on. I think beyond that, we all try to like trade in USD, which is really the problem. If we were trading in our own currencies, because for us, for example, that's a big, huge problem, like getting the currency. So we have to buy in USD if we buy it from you. So how do you see that challenge? I mean, getting through that challenge in terms of having local agents and so on. That's also by itself a problem. So how do you go on with that? Thank you.
Forgot that question. First question again. What? Just give me a keyword there quickly.
So going from like the initial ideation to a product development. Yeah. So does it always start from you? Does it have to be something like that? Do you have a kind of research team, or is it only few people, or do you take ideas from others and you collaborate with them and so on? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a mixture of all of that. Actually, we have our own labs and we do most of our own development. So sometimes it comes from attending conventions and seeing what these big donor organizations have to say. So that's why I like to go to them. It does cost money, but you get your ideas from there. There's some ideas come from the staff as well, but I think the real ideas in terms of innovation is the difficult one, because you have to take sort of two different concepts and put it together and make sort of a new thing. I'll give an example, like a car has wipers, you know, so before we got wipers, the guy used to take a cloth and wipe the window that way, okay? And then eventually they had like a little handle in front of the window with a little arm. So you had to have like 5 engineers to build that. And eventually, you got like this little thing on top of a window, electronic board. So when it rains, it closes a circuit, and the windows switch on automatically. Your wipers switch on automatically. So somebody had to take that little electronic board and wipers, marry the two together to make electronic self-wiping electronic wipers. So those type of things, like making pocket, we had to think it had to be small. It had to work with the battery. Like most of our products are for low socioeconomic countries, environments, and it must be cheap. You know, so those are sort of the inputs. And then we had to sort of come up with a design that fits all of that. You know, so a lot of the ideas do come from me, but a lot of the ideas come from our staff, especially when it comes to how to make it work, comes from the staff. What to make will probably come from me, and how to put it together based on what I go about seeing. So yeah, it's no one answer to that. It's yeah. Sometimes you have a conversation with somebody, and then you know you get, or you in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock in the morning, you come up with this idea. Sometimes you take a break for 2 weeks and you're watching movies, and something in a movie gives you an idea. You know. In terms of Etienne's question about doctors actually performing tests, we've actually gone around asking doctors this exact question, and they say that they don't actually want to do the testing themselves. So they just prefer, they know how to draw blood, and they know how to send it away to pathologists, and that is what they prefer to do. They don't want to sit with 10, 15, 20, 30 tests on the bench, a whole big assortment. They'd rather just send the sample away. So then that would mean that our customer would be the pathologist in that case. I think that's all.
How do we talk about trading in USD and local currencies? It's quite difficult to trade in local currencies because of the exchange rate and the fluctuation of the exchange rate, which is why we try our best to find local partners to then be the middleman in terms of those transactions. And sometimes we're able to join projects at an early stage where we then not only speaking to like your Ministry of Health, who is the who is the end user, but also with the funder who then doesn't transfer the funds directly to the country, but pay us directly so we can be able to deliver the services. Hope that answers you.
Thank you. I'm going to call the session to a close there, if that's okay. And if you want to catch the speakers, please just catch them and talk to them now. You better not have sent me another question, Ambi, because have you? No, you haven't. So please, can you register those online? Please, can you register for the next seminar? Just so we don't want to be chasing people in the last bit. But I've got written down a couple of points just to close this down. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to both of you for an excellent presentation. I'm pretty sure the audience have had their eyes wide open about this kind of elements associated with innovation in Africa. You know, and the things that I really wrote down, you know, accreditation is key. You know, if you are thinking somebody like Global Fund's going to buy your product, or USAID when it was USAID, or PEPFAR before it was PEPFAR, you need accreditation, guys. No one's going to put $10 million orders your way without accreditation, and that varies per country. All right, so and that's whether you're making a diagnostic or a device, or whether it's a drug, or if it's an enzyme, you need some level of accreditation. Currency is an important factor. It can really be a very, and I'm glad you added it in, so just put that down there. Supply chain is key. You cannot just arrive with these products in your suitcases and expect to sell it. You need a local distributor who is regulated by the government there. So if you were thinking that you're just making a product in Zimbabwe or Zambia and you'll just go to Malawi and sell it across the road, you need a route to market. You can't just arrive and sell products in an unregulated environment. Well, you can until you get caught and then you get put in jail. So that's the other thing. So this has been a very interesting session, and it's probably a nice segue into that the fellows in the audience are going to get a set of projects tomorrow. There's probably going to be about 10. We don't know the exact number yet. We've got about 9, and we're waiting for the 2 final ones to come in. You need to rank them 1 to 10 in the order that you would like to do them. And there are some projects that Lasec and Medical Diagnostic have put in. Some of the speakers coming next week are putting in projects as well. It is all the same kind of questions that they are going to be asking. If we're going to put a medical device into a country, which country would you start at and why? And what's the route to market? And what's the product you would make? And what are your considerations? If it's there's a session on maternal and child health where there's also devices around maternal and child health. There's anemia in women, how you triage women for anemia. There's making enzymes. There's lots of different kinds of projects going into the mix. But the questions for all of them are the same. Who is your customer? Who are you selling to? You know, is a lateral flow, is it the doctor? Most of you probably would have thought a doctor. I thought it was a doctor. It's actually the central lab. You never see a patient. At all. And it's not the patient unless it's a pregnancy test and you go and buy it in a discount or a pharmacy, etc. So who is your customer? What's your route to market? What's the price point you're going to be going for? What's the marketing strategy? So these are the kinds of things you're going to be working on. So teams of 4. So if you're already working in teams, maybe put in a team request, ranking 1 to 10, and we will try and match up. We're not going to have 4 diagnostic projects and nothing else. Some of the projects will involve time in industry. Your industry mentors will be part of the project. Some of them might include time in the US, going to the US for 2 months to go and work in some of the groups. So not everyone can obviously do that. So the projects will come out tomorrow, but by Tuesday, we would like you guys to give us a ranking of 1 to 11, the 1 being the one you would like to do, and we will try and match these up with the groups in person. I'm just going to close up and say thank you very much, Lyndon and Naledi. That was hugely interesting. You can, based on the number of questions that you have received, I think it's an indication of the level of interest that has been there, and there's some good questions. Thank you very much. We're going to close this up, and we will see you next week, same room, same time, and the topic is digital health, I think. Thank you.